So, wir machen ein kleines spritziges Video und zwar von TA Outdoors. 10 Tipps in 10 Minuten. Ich bin gespannt.
Back to another episode of 10 in 10, the series where I show you 10 useful tips for survival, camping and bushcraft in roughly 10 minutes.
Okay.
In the previous episode, we looked at 10 different skills that you could do with a saw, and in the one before that, we looked at 10 bushcraft axe skills.
Yeah.
If you enjoy this type of video, feel free to subscribe and follow the links in the video description below for more similar episodes.
Okay.
In conditions where the wind is strong, it can often be difficult to set up a tarp for a shelter. One of the
Okay, nochmal. Also es geht jetzt nicht um Axt oder Säge, das war in den anderen Folgen schon, sondern es geht um generelle Bushcraft Survival Camping Tipps.
fastest and easiest shelters to make with a tarp is the Pluckpoint. To
Ding?
help you in setting up this shelter in strong winds, you can store your tarp in the side pocket of your pack. That way,
Diamantaufbau.
you can pull the tarp out of the pack and tie one corner to the tree.
Ja.
The weight of the pack is helping to prevent the wind from catching the tarp and blowing it around, potentially causing it to snag against sharp sticks and branches. Once you have tied the first corner around the tree, you then have time to peg out the remaining corners of the tarp to form the sides of the shelter. To stop your tarp from blowing straight out of the side pocket, you can loop it around the zip and then undo this loop last minute to peg out the final corner of the shelter. In my opinion, the Pluckpoint shelter is the easiest tarp one to set up.
Habe ich noch nie gehört, die Bezeichnung, dass das so heißt. Ich nenne es immer Diamantaufbau. Ja, ist ein geiles Ding. Habe ich tatsächlich schon öfter benutzt. Zum drunterpennen, aber auch, wenn man mal eine kurze Pause macht und es anfängt zu regnen. Weil das Ding ist wirklich in, keine Ahnung, 1 Minute aufgebaut. Geiles Ding.
It gives you ample space inside for you and your pack, and it's also really easy to maneuver the shelter around so that the back is facing the wind.
Ja.
There's no hassle of having to tie a ridge line or have any guy lines to tie down. It's always a good idea to have some sort of cordage with you in your pack.
Ja.
It's highly versatile and has a number of uses.
Was hat er vor?
Often in winter, you need to collect more firewood than in the warmer summer months. Cut 2 sticks about a length of your arm and then put a point on one end of the stick and bevel the other end. Tie some cord at equal lengths to the 2 sticks. I use an arbor knot to secure the cord tight to the sticks. Make sure both pieces of cord are equal in length.
Das habe ich gleich auf
Now you
Instagram
have a
schon mal
log
gesehen.
carrier to carry large amounts of firewood. The 2 sticks act as a carrying handle and make it much easier to carry small or even quite large long logs back to your camp.
Ja.
As well.
Ja. Ja. Also ich mache es meistens so, dass ich mir eher so Sturmschäden wie hier hinten hole. Dann schneide ich die in, was weiß ich, 1 oder 2 Teile, dass die immer noch richtig groß sind. Und dann ziehe ich die oder schleppe ich die einfach als Gesamtheit zur Lagerfeuerstelle und mache die da erst klein. Dann kann ich mir das sparen mit dem Transportieren von den kleinen
As well as
Sachen.
being a log carrier, it can also double up as something else that might be useful around camp.
Okay, was wird
This
das
is the
jetzt?
reason why points have been made on the end of the stick. If you knock the sticks into the ground, ensuring that the paracord between the sticks is taut, you now have a makeshift drying rack, which you can use to dry clothes near the campfire.
Ja.
You could even adapt this to make a horizontal drying rack for smoking meat over the fire.
Tatsächlich nehme ich da einfach immer einen Stock. Einfach einen Stock anspitzen, rein, bupp. Habe ich jetzt gerade erst wieder gemacht auf der letzten Tour. Und hänge das dann einfach über den Stock drüber. Aber ja, kann
A
man machen.
Hessian sack is not something you might think of as being a mainstay item in your backpack,
Okay, was hat er jetzt damit vor?
but they can actually be pretty useful. They fold up small, take up little space in your pack, and they tend to be supplied with natural twine to tie the sacks up when you have filled them. The sacks can be great for carrying things like stones to create a protective ring for your campfire. You can use a short stick to tie the Hessian sack to and to keep it close to your body when carrying it over long distances.
Ja.
This should help ease the strain on your arms and shoulders. You can also use the natural twine to attach the sack like I did here. However, with heavy loads, I would recommend either tying the sack onto itself or using some stronger cordage. The other useful thing about the natural twine is that you can fluff it up by rubbing it together between your fingers, and this can act as a great tinder material for starting a fire. Once the fine, dry fibres have been exposed, they should be able to take a spark from a ferro rod. Natural twine can burn for quite a while, so it can be good in wet conditions when you need that extra long flame to catch your kindling. Boiling water is key for survival. It kills nasty bacteria.
Ja, das mit dem Säckchen jetzt, ja, habe ich noch nie gebraucht tatsächlich. So, wenn ich einmal ein paar Steine brauche, dann suche ich mir die schnell zusammen, da brauche ich keinen Sack für.
Parasites and viruses. It should always be done if you are not sure on the quality of the water source nearby. The best and fastest way to boil water is in a metal container.
Ja.
When you have hot coals, you can place your container straight onto the coals and boil it that way. However, you have to wait for your fire to get a good bed of embers. A simple grill is not...
War das jetzt ein Trick, dass man über dem Feuer Wasser abkochen kann? War das jetzt schon ein Tipp?
Not only good for cooking food over the fire, but it's also ideal as a stand for your pot to sit on. If you place 2 larger logs either side of your campfire, you can then balance your grill on these and place your container on top. This way you can keep adding sticks into the fire through the gap in the logs. This method works
ich auch noch nie
fine,
benutzt.
but sometimes the logs can affect the airflow and can result in your fire not burning very efficient.
Ja, es ist wieder so ein Ding, was ausrüstungstechnisch natürlich cool ist und Sinn macht, aber man braucht es halt nicht unbedingt. Also du kannst halt auch einfach draufstellen oder daneben stellen oder sowas. Ja, habe ich auch nicht sowas.
If you get a short stick, again roughly the length of your arm, and make a number of small cuts into it with a saw, you can place these cuts at any distance apart, but I tend to do just 3 cuts about the length of the saw handle. Make a point on the stick and then gently hit it into the ground.
Er baut einen Potthänger.
Now you have 3 adjustable heights to hold your grill.
Oh, da hätte ich Angst, dass das
You
runterfällt.
can make use of the early flame from a campfire to get your water boil.
Also da bin ich immer ein Freund davon, lieber irgendwas mit einem Henkel zu haben, wie bei Seven vs. Wild, wo ich einen großen Topf hatte, wo ich das dann einfach mit so einem Potthänger hinhänge. Aber da hätte ich Angst, dass mir das auseinanderfliegt. Und dann ist das Feuer aus, weil das Wasser drin ist. Und, ja.
And you can adjust it to always keep it near the flame. Another easy way of raising the grill of your fire is to use 3 tent pegs. Tent pegs are generally quite light these days, and they don't take up much space in your pack. If you place the pegs into the ground in a triangle shape, and then place your grill on top, you then have a makeshift stand for your boiling container. Just make sure not to place your container near the edges of the grill, as these will likely make it unstable, and your water could fall off and potentially extinguish your fire. This type of grill allows you to feed the fire underneath, and also allows for good airflow to maintain an efficient burn. Gallium apparine.
Tipp aus dem Chat, du kannst auch ein Zelt mitnehmen, um nicht nass zu werden. Das ist wirklich ein super Tipp.
Also known as cleavers,
ja, kenne ich.
goosegrass, and many more nicknames. It's one of the earliest wild edibles to show its face after the cold winter months. Fairly easy to identify, they are an annual creeping plant which grow along the ground and attach to other plants with tiny hooked hairs on the underside of the leaf and the stem. The leaves themselves are thin, narrow, and grow in halls of 6 to 8. In spring, they have tiny star-shaped flowers which tend to be white. It tends to grow in hedges, by paths in the woods, and also as a common garden weed. The tiny hairs on the leaves and stem are what most of you might know them from. As kids, we used to throw these at each other and watch as they would cling to the clothing without the other person noticing. But it's the medicinal properties of this plant that we are looking for. It has been used to treat skin problems such as psoriasis and eczema. It's also a diuretic and can benefit in the treatment of glandular fever, tonsillitis, hepatitis, and many more ailments.
Was gegen Hepatitis? Also Medizin oder was? Tee draus kochen.
It can be used as a poultice to treat wounds, but probably its most common use is as a spring tonic drink or tea. If you want to make a cold fusion, you can steep it in water and keep it cool for 24 to 48 hours for the best effect. But you can also boil some water.
Klettenlabkraut, so habe ich es mal gelernt. Ja, aber was ist das? Macht der Tee damit? Ich habe es nicht gerafft.
And place the leaves in and let it steep for 20 minutes.
Ah doch, 20 Minuten im
And
Wasser?
have yourself a nice, fresh, wild tea.
Ah, okay. Okay, haben wir. Ja, jetzt kommt der Trick mit dem, dass man das so durchschraubt, dann hat man Zunder. Kannst ja doch einfach ein Messer nehmen, ne?
Pencil sharpener. Not something you would really consider keeping in your kit. But it's only small and light, taking up very little space.
Ja.
On wet conditions, it can be great to expose the dry wood underneath the bark.
Nee.
Using a small twig,
Nee, das fühle ich nicht.
you can create very thin, fine curls.
Das sind so ein bisschen diese Tipps, immer, nimm doch das mit, um das damit zu machen. Also, wisst ihr, was ich meine? Das ist, mit dem Tarpaufbau sage ich noch okay, aber das ist so wie, nimm ein Licht mit, denn wenn es draußen dunkel ist, kannst du damit was sehen. Nimm ein Zelt mit, denn es schützt dich vor Regen und Wind. Nimm einen Rucksack mit, da kannst du alles drin transportieren. Ich weiß, ich bin schon wieder am Meinecke unterwegs und so weiter, aber nee.
Curls.
Kannst
If
einfach
you
mit dem
make
Messer nehmen.
enough of these curls, they should be able to take a spark from a ferro rod quite easily.
Spoiler! Oha, habt ihr noch nie gesehen.
If you use stick, such as pine, it is full of resin, and a thin curl should burn for quite some time, allowing you to build up your fire with small twigs and kindling. Pencil sharpeners are also a great way for children who are not yet able to safely create feather sticks with a knife to use this safe method and make fine curls and practice getting a fire going with a ferro rod.
Also auch Feathersticks, man braucht eigentlich keine Feathersticks, das ist eigentlich so Spielerei. Habe ich auch schon ein paar Mal gemacht. Aber im Endeffekt, du brauchst ein bisschen Kleinkram, um die erste Flamme zu erzeugen und dann machst du einfach klein gespaltenes Holz drauf, fertig.
Corylus avellana, the hazel tree. A very common small tree that has a wide range of uses in the bushcraft and survival world. The tree itself is well known as a coppice material and grows in hedgerows as well as woodland. It's ideal for weaving fence panels, making spars for thatching roofs, and many more crafting activities. It's not the first tree that comes to mind when you think about firelighting materials. However, the hazel tree is a great resource for primitive firelighting, in particular the bow drill method.
Ach so, ja.
Because of the nature of the tree,
Bowdrill
it grows
Spindel.
multiple shoots from the same stem, and so these shoots are always in competition for light, especially when they are growing amongst larger trees like oak and ash. As a result, they tend to grow very straight. This makes them an ideal resource for the spindle of the bow drill kit. They need very little work to get them ready. All that is needed is for the bark to be removed at the tip and it pointed on one end and slightly rounded at the other
Wäre
end.
auch genutzt fürs Bowdrill.
Slightly thicker branches of the tree can be split down the middle and you have yourself a hearth board. Because hazel is very pliable, you can bend it easily to make the bow. Before you know it, you can fashion up a bow drill set, all from the same species of tree.
Profi.
Obviously, the wood will need to be dry and not green, but I find that a hazel spindle on a hazel hearth board works extremely well with the bow drill method.
Hä, er benutzt jetzt auch als Bohrbrett Haselnuss? Hartholz auf Hartholz?
And there you have it. Another 10 tips in roughly 10 minutes video has come to an end. Many thanks to all of you who watched the episode, and remember, if you enjoyed it, be sure to follow the links in the video description below to other survival tip videos, and feel free to subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
See you later. Ja, okay. Ja, ein bisschen was war dabei. Oder? Bisschen was war dabei.